why the fuck notters? How you doing out there? I hope you're having a great day. As always, we got Ed sitting here.
Yeah, Dwight.
I'm Aaron.
And we're about to go through part two of the conspiracy week. Wow, that last one went on quite a long time. Sorry about that, people.
It needed to, though.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
I kind of felt like I had to keep going on it. Like, I didn't want to, like...
We got the full case study.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to go for. I wanted everything to be involved. I didn't want anything to be missed out, and especially with a topic like that, because I'll get crucified, and I probably still will.
Well, that with every conspiracy, I think you get crucified.
That is true.
Oh yeah, we're all gonna get fucked.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, the two conspiracies that are left to do, I'm not going to spoil either one of them, so I'm going to let you guys go on it. But by fucking God, am I looking forward to this?
Yeah. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Dwight. So I think that's what we're doing first here. So before we get into that, just to start off, how was your week been there, Dwight?
Well, if I'm going to be completely honest, it's been a bit off, but it's, I was saying before, and it's kind of a weird thing so me and Christy are pregnant, and she's...
Oh, wait, you're pregnant too.
We're pregnant. I think that's how you say it, right?
Oh, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be.
And
yeah,
I'm going to say it this way because I'm taking a lot of her emotions that she's having, and they seem to be transparent with my life now. It's really weird. So, like, whatever she's going through, I feel the stresses of what she's going through, and it's a really weird feeling. I don't know if I can really explain it, but the best way to explain it is whatever stresses she has, it seems to be carried forward to me. Or it's even weird, even if she's, like, having stomach pains or if she's feeling weird. Like, I kind of get and it sounds crazy. But
no, it doesn't, though. I've heard this before. The sympathy weight syndrome, like, a lot of guys gain weight with the mothers of the child. They call it out of sympathy. I don't know if it's sympathy, just force a habit.
Sympathy is kind of a weird word for it.
Yeah, it is a little weird, but that's what they call it anyway. So I think it's kind of the same thing. Like, her emotions and her feelings, which are probably all over the place right now, are reflecting
emotional roller coaster. That's okay, though. It's completely normal.
You're connected in such a significant way now that that's
right.
that can be expected.
That I don't have with my wife. Like you have a connection that I don't have.
Yeah. I think I have it with my cat. I think I got it.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see the look in your eyes when you're with your cat.
Oh yeah, we're pretty close.
We love each other. So, anyways, it's been off and on, but all in all, it's been okay.
That's nice to hear. How about yourself, Aaron? How's your week been?
Not too bad. My weeks are generally the same from week to week. Just work, gaming. Yesterday was kind of crazy at work, but I'm over it now. I'm probably going to be building a computer for my friend today, and show him how to build it.
Oh, nice. So you're going to be teaching him how to do it.
Yeah.
Teach him to fish, right?
I'm going to let him enter the PC Master Race.
Oh.
Teach man to fish? Were you going with the... Give a man a fish, he eats for a day.
Yeah,
teach man a fish, he eats for a day.
That way you don't have to help him ever again.
It's true.
He doesn't even need to be friends with him anymore.
Because I asked Aaron the same thing. I was like, can you help me build a gaming computer?
Oh, man, I love it.
And, I wanted him to do it. And he's like, I'll teach you how to do it. And I was like, no, I just want you to do it. And he's like, I'll teach you how to do it. I'm like, all right, fine. We'll find it. I guess I'm learning something.
It's not that hard as long it's really easy if you have someone to show you.
Everyone says when they're good at something. All right?
It's Lego. It's literally Lego. As long as someone can pick out the good parts for you, it's putting it together is easy.
It's a little intimidating seeing the cards and stuff like that because you see all these electronics. You're not dealing with those, right? Like it's already built for you. So, but just seeing them, the visual aspect of them is a little intimidating.
That's like saying like a car mechanic, right? Being like it's easy. It's like a puzzle. I remember that's like in our mech class, they were like, we were rebuilding a transmission was like our final project or something like that. And that's what everyone kept saying. It's like a puzzle. Just remember how you took it apart, put it back together that way. And it's like, yeah, it's 50 million fucking pieces. It's a big fucking puzzle. And if I put one out of place, like,
computer's a little bit simpler. There's like 8 pieces.
It is. I don't know. I feel
maybe I'm just foreign to it. Maybe that's why.
Yeah. That's how I am. I don't know. I have a friend that talks to me about it all the time on Wish or whatever. Yeah, sure, go for it, man. And he's like, yeah, I got this new fucking RAM card or some shit. I bought some more RAM. I'm like, you can just buy more RAM.
I'm smart.
Just adding more RAM is something I never even knew as a concept.
You can do it.
No, I know that, but I just never really
it's not going to help that.
I was just kind of like, you buy it, you
buy a RAM card, put it in. It's like, okay, buy it and put it in where? Like, I
just ramming it in the CD drive.
It's called RAM for this reason.
Just a side note: RAM does not come on cards. RAM is a specific chip.
Shut up, Aaron.
The room goes silent.
Sorry, I had to nerd out a little bit.
Now I feel dumb.
Like, I've always been console, right? So, you know,
Yeah.
like, for console, I buy it, I bring it home. I'm done.
That's
You know,
it.
I might have
No.
to buy a new controller or something.
You gotta wait for
something.
it to update.
Yeah.
Dirty console peasant.
I like being a dirty console peasant. It's easy.
It's easy.
familiar.
Yeah, exactly.
It's familiar. It's comfort.
Exactly.
It's comfort food is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's good. I'm glad you're having a good week, and Dwight, I'm sure your week's gonna get better.
I'm sure it is,
too.
too.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure it
especially
is.
now.
No, next week he's gonna come in and he's gonna be all like me.
He's gonna have like 10 extra pounds on the belly.
Roses are so beautiful. Why do they have thorns?
For myself, the week's been pretty good for the most part. I mean, I've kind of had that same sort of stigma because we all kind of like work in the same circle, and I work fairly closely to Chrissy too as well. And I've been kind of like feeling the extra stress of like feeling like I'm not doing enough and I should do some more to help out and stuff because that'll probably help just in general. So I mean, aside from that, the week's been really good.
Here's the thing about work too: is I think it's very important, no matter what job you do, is that it's very unhealthy to really carry it home with you. And like, I'm a huge advocate for this, and I think that once you get home, it should be like
Shut it off, right?
you should shut it off, which is like a lot. I know it's easier said than done a lot of the time, but it's super important for your health to just
Take that jacket
what
off,
I
right?
how I see it is like when I'm there, it's like if I've done everything I can for that 10 hours or however long I've been there, now if I feel like I've done everything I could, then I can't go home and feel guilty about the day that just happened because I've done everything I could and now there's nothing I can do that I'm home. So there's no point of stressing over what I've already done.
I try to look at it, but I'll still get home at 1 a.m. and be like, "Oh shit, did I do this?"
Awesome. I was in your possession years ago where I'd like come home after it closed and be like, "Fuck, I left a fryer on."
Yeah.
Like, something like that. And whether you did
It's
or
the
not, it still
worst.
clicks in your head. I think that's an anxiety thing more than it is anything else. So it sucks. And
But
it's
then
not-
knowing you can't change anything about it,
Yeah, it's
you
nah,
can't
fuck it.
stress, right? Like that's the thing.
It is what it is. Well, if you didn't know, this is Why the Fuck Not, where three friends gather around one table and bring 3 topics of discussion. This week's a special week because we are doing Conspiracy Week, and this is part 2. Today, we are going to be leading off with Dwight Benson and his awesome topic. I can't wait to talk about this. Dwight, what do you bring to the table?
Well, you know what? As soon as we started talking about conspiracies, I thought there's no way we can go through these series without talking about the moon landing. Biggest conspiracy, I mean, arguably of all time.
Just the moon.
Just
The moon in general. Like,
Yeah.
I remember hearing, like, this, I don't think this is relative to yours, and if it is, stop me, but I've heard people call it the moon a projection from some people.
No.
I've heard that. I know it has nothing to do with where your conspiracy's going, but I'm just making sure. I've heard that, like, that's
like
the
the
most
Truman
ridiculous
Show
fucking
theory or
thing I've
something.
ever
Okay.
heard.
Quick list of conspiracies I can think of off
Flat
the
Earth.
top of my head about the moon.
Oh, okay, go to town. Well, okay, fire away at a couple of them, and I'm going to say if it's going to intervene with what I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
Go.
Hollow moon.
Heard that one.
Never heard that one.
Check. Check
Check.
that one off.
Binary moon.
Never heard that one either.
Well, there's supposed to be another moon. Nazis on the moon.
Check. I've heard that
okay,
one
I've
before.
heard that.
Yeah,
Silly,
that's-
yeah.
We have a base on the dark side
Actually-
of the moon.
Check. I've heard that.
I've heard that
I
too.
think I might have
Actually,
heard that from
you know what's super silly? Because there is a lot of moon pictures that does show a lot of weird foreign objects like bridges and whatnot.
Oh, definitely.
And it is super strange. Like, it definitely is weird, and we don't really...
One thing I think that needs to kind of be taken into consideration is people see shit that they want to see too, right? Like if you see something
Sure.
that looks like a face, you're going to see that face. Like
Sure.
I look at the dots in my ceiling and I could probably pick out a face, right?
Sure, yeah.
Well, there's that, and then there's confirmation bias. You're hanging around with a bunch of people who are like, look at
This is what
the
it
Nazis
is.
on the moon. And you're like, yeah, there's probably
Oh,
Nazis
there's
on
the
the moon.
Nazis on the
Think
moon.
it's-
Another quick couple conspiracies about the moon. Chinese on the moon and Bigfoot's from the moon.
I haven't heard either one of those yet. Those are new to me.
Both super silly.
Bigfoot from the moon. How
Yes.
did he get to Earth?
Teleportation.
Oh, that makes
Obviously,
sense.
yeah.
It's fucking sound.
Obviously.
There is no
He's
cracks in
Bigfoot.
that theory.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
I think
well,
NASA
I think the
endorses
topic's
it.
done, guys. I think
Well, the
we can
weird
close
thing-
it.
All right,
We're
let's all
done
go
here.
home.
Yeah.
The weird thing with the dark side of the moon, though, is it is, I mean, like a shadow you got to think of here on Earth would be like, you can see through it almost, right? It's like transparent, whereas like on the dark side of the moon, you can't really capture a picture of the dark side of the moon. Like,
Well,
there's-
the moon and the Earth are spinning at such a way that the dark side of the moon is always facing away from the
where
Earth.
we're looking.
Yeah, that's why we call it the dark side of the moon. So I don't know if we've actually sent anything over there.
So yeah, that would be my question. Is going on to. I mean, we're jumping a little bit.
Well,
ahead.
that's
We're
why
going
there's
on
going to
that
be some
side.
conspiracy. That the shadows and the dark kind of coincide with this conspiracy.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're gonna get to all the points why this is kind of such a talked about, like why it's such a talked about conspiracy, because there is a huge amount of like of what we know that comes into play that's kind of false. So, anyways, it makes for a really juicy conspiracy. To start this off, I'm going to escalate this and why this is such a huge conspiracy is because the moon landing kind of happened at the peak of the Cold War. So it was, some say that it kind of ended the Cold War, right? It was 2 years after World War II. 1969 is when we ended up going to the moon. But the things that we got to keep in mind before this is that the Russians really were making way more advances than the Americans at this time when it came to space travel.
First man on the moon.
First man on the
woman in space.
First
dog in space.
First dog in space.
Yeah, first dog is one that I always heard about.
Mm-hmm. They logged 500 more space hours than the United States.
Question.
Sure.
What do you think that dog was thinking?
What the fuck am I doing?
Why
am I on this?
Where's my
They
treat?
tricked me. They said they were going for a walk.
They threw a ball.
Now I'm on the moon.
I got the ball.
They sent monkeys to space too. Well, America sent monkeys as well. Imagine what those monkeys are thinking.
Yeah, they probably got a higher thought process on that other than.
You gotta think though. Okay, so this is all happening at the end of the Cold. This is like deciding who is the elitist in. This was basically determined who was like the top of the world. It was like the East versus the West when it came to the Cold War.
And it was
right?
definitely a race.
And it was definitely a race.
That's why they called it
Huge
the moon
factors.
race, right?
Huge factors came to play at this point. NASA was running out of funding. Like there wasn't much money left. They hadn't really done much with all the projects that they were planning. They had a couple of failed missions prior to.
A couple.
And a lot. And, the Russians are putting people into space. They're putting the first dog into space.
Just anything they can.
Just whipping
they were actually the first.
Hippies, throw them up there.
Get them up there. They were actually the first. The first spacecraft to actually grab moon rock and bring it back. The only reason that the Americans beat them to it was because the ship crashed on the way down.
Okay.
But they were the first ones to even grab a moon rock. So
now, did they have the first satellite in space? Was Sputnik the first?
Yeah.
What about that black orbiting satellite that I heard about? Do we have any information
Death
on that?
Star, right?
Yeah, the Death Star. That's what everybody watch out for. The Death Star.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one that they.
That's
that
another
everybody's questioning. It's
conspiracy.
a different conspiracy.
Yes,
Yeah.
Man, I'm getting all my conspiracies mixed up.
There's
here.
too many.
Keep
when
it
comes to
straight.
space.
All right, sorry. Back on path.
So this is huge. This is going to decide who's the elitist in the world when it comes to. This was like the peak of it. Kennedy said in 1962, the reason we want to go to the moon is because it's a hard thing to do. That was kind of like where his presidency lied, was that he was going to get man on the moon come the end of the 60s. So 69 is when. And the timing on all this was really funky about it all, right?
Did he live to see that?
No, he didn't.
No.
He I was just going to say, man, there is conspiracy after conspiracy after
The
conspiracy.
Kennedy
That's the one I'm
conspiracy
talking
is a
about,
weird
right?
one too. Yeah.
This whole
The,
timeline.
like the comparisons to Lincoln and
That's juicy.
Or
This whole
what's his,
time, there-
Franz Ferdinand. Like, oh man,
There's so much
to talk
fucked up shit going on.
about. Yeah, we have opened up a fucking can of worms here. Let's keep going.
Seriously. So another thing to keep before we start talking more about this conspiracy is that 2 decades after the moon landing, so 72 was the last Apollo mission that went to the moon. So the 12 men, I think, went to touch the moon in total. But we didn't really hear much about the other ones, and the real important one was Apollo 11, which is the first one that landed on the moon in 1969. So the weird thing too about this is 2 decades later, we couldn't send like a focused lens into space on a spacecraft 2 decades later, which was something that was apparently 1,000 times easier than landing on the moon. We couldn't do this 2 decades later. Even put a focused scope on a ship 2 decades later.
To observe space.
Take pictures to observe space. It wasn't a focus. We couldn't even have a focused camera.
Huh.
So the fact that we brought men to the moon, but we couldn't get a camera focused in space, makes this conspiracy even juicier than.
I mean,
It
we
raises
were
the
in the
questions.
middle of a race at that one point.
You're in the middle of a race. NASA is running out of funding. I think the taxpayers put in something like $35 billion into funding into NASA, and the NASA hit its peak.
Holy
At that
shit, that's a
time?
lot
That
of
time, I think it's
fucking
worth
money.
That's
something
like-
42 billion
Yeah,
now
I was
or
gonna say
something.
that.
I would say more than that.
Right,
Like
it's
inflation
40,
was. Nintendo, when it came out, it was $199. Now it's sitting at almost like $399. So if you think about that as inflation, the billion.
Of course, you're going to refer to fucking
Sorry,
Nintendo.
it's what I got. I'm sorry.
But yes, it was think of all that was on the line. You had the peak of the Cold War. You had the USSR versus the Americans. World race to space. NASA was running out of funding. USSR was way, way far ahead when it came to space hours, when it came to technology, when it came to bringing a spacecraft to the moon. So they were miles ahead of us. NASA was going to run out of the peak of NASA funding, and all the investors came in. I think it was 1964 or something, and then after that, it just started declining. But they had to do something. They had to show the taxpayers. They had to show the world that this wasn't just.
Yeah, everyone was paying attention. That was what everybody talked
I do have
about.
a question. What was at stake to be the first person, like the first country to hit the moon? Do you feel that maybe it might have, like, in a sense, won the war for them in their own head?
Bragging rights.
Bragging rights is definitely on there.
Yeah, it totally did. Right? It was.
I mean,
I've always heard the comparison.
It was a worldwide tech accomplishment. The world was watching.
Definitely.
It was like this was the dominant.
It was almost like an invention.
And the thing with too is, like, that's when they kind of were going in with bombs at that time. They thought if they could send
that was another large part. Yeah.
Well, they were trying to use nuclear explosions to.
So you can nuke someone across the world if you go a certain distance into space. You can actually put the satellite so that you can nuke Japan or whatever. You know what I mean? But
that's what it would.
Who would ever want to nuke Japan?
How scary of a thing to know that, you know what I mean? You have the technology to do that, right?
Oh, it's scary as shit.
So that was huge on the line, right? And all this money, like the taxpayers' dollars too, on top of it all was at risk, right? So NASA raised $30 billion to go to the moon. That's what it ended up coming with. Another weird things that happened at this same time was the Vietnam War was going on. A lot of people kind of ignored it because everyone knew the moon landing was way more popular and way more. The Apollo missions themselves was overshadowing any kind of American investment into the Vietnam War.
Basically,
especially in America, because nobody in America at that time really wanted to deal with the Vietnam War. A lot of them thought it was a mistake. I think that's
definitely.
Yeah. Right?
I was gonna say, like, 75% of the people are watching the moon landing, and then like 25 are the hippies protesting over Vietnam.
Do you think that might have been a play as to them trying as hard as they did? Like, because this helps kind of mask this whole mess that's going on?
That's what it is. Well, I mean, it happened to be perfect timing, right? Like,
yeah.
So...
And I mean, more conspiracies we could get into about Vietnam, like hundreds. There's conspiracies saying the whole reason we went in there is false pretenses.
Oh, well, like, I think what the war itself costed, like, something like $50 trillion in taxpayer dollars.
Well, that's reasonable.
Well, like, right now, the war on terror that we're fighting is something like $50 trillion that the taxpayers are paying that have invested into this war versus terror.
That's
$50 trillion.
Oh, look at the war on drugs. It's hundreds of trillion.
Oh, yeah, there's been a war going on pretty much at all times between drugs and
they've lost.
War on drugs is a big failure. Yeah, it's a silly failure. So anyways, this was super important. Peaking, like, timing was perfect on it all. They promised that they would get there at the end of the 60s. Sure enough, they got there, and, well, allegedly, we'll go into this conspiracy here, that they got there. And the evidence that kind of was delivered back is why this conspiracy is probably as juicy as it is. So we'll start, there's like a bunch of conspiracies, or like problems with this conspiracy that I'm going to go through. So the first one is, on all the shots, there's no stars in the background. So
on the photos.
Yeah, yes. Within the photos. But
so this is.
Yeah, I'll let you say what you're saying. I think you might cover what I'm thinking. So go ahead.
So I'm gonna I don't want to be like I'm not the conspiracy theorist of the max here, but I am gonna say that some of the controversy between it is when the sun is gonna be in direct light with the moon. The moon's glare from the sunlight is gonna overshine the pictures. Is why they say that there's no stars in the moon, or like why they couldn't see the stars in the moon. But it was really fishy when. Have you ever watched any of the interviews with like Armstrong?
I've seen some, but not the direct afters. There's more recent ones where they've talked to him about like conspiracies on it, and he just shuns it.
So him and Collins, he's never actually done a live on-screen interview.
Yeah, I think
there was only the first conference when he kind of came back, and then they did a couple of reunion ones afterwards. But it was like short, brief, couple questions,
Neil
and
Armstrong?
that was it.
Yeah, Neil Armstrong. Yeah.
But he's never had like a full one-on-one interview about his moon trip.
I believe there was. He did talk about at one point where he thought he saw a UFO or something.
I've heard that.
He
too.
said that.
Yeah.
He said that him and Collins both said that they couldn't see stars the entire time they were up there, which they thought was really fun. Like, it was really fishy. And they said it like in the press conference, it was really strange, right? They were like, "So how beautiful did it look?" They were all asking. The reporters were asking him, and he said, "Honestly, I don't remember seeing any stars."
I remember him saying, "I don't remember much of it."
And then he went out. It was Collins, right? He said that,
Yeah.
and then he went out, and I think it was Collins. he went out and wrote a book afterwards, like when he was like 75, saying that somehow he remembered all of a sudden, like 20 years later, and decided to write a book about it. And,
well, I mean, I think the government is halfway built on cover-ups, right? So, like, who's to say that they didn't?
That's the thing. There's so much lies when it comes to the government, right?
Yeah.
And there was so much covered up all the time,
Wait.
especially in that time.
Wait till we get to my top.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
Which is also in this time period.
Yeah.
Which is also strange about this whole thing is we have not gone back to the moon since '72. So it's been 20 years past.
We've launched shit up there, but it's never been
unmanned probes and satellites. But we've never had anyone else. We've never been back to the moon.
I've been there, done that, right?
Yeah, we've been like there was a lot of issues with even landing there in the first place and getting humans up there. The big one was the Allen belts. Have you guys ever heard of this?
No.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Radiation belt. It's the Van Allen belt.
The Van Allen belts. So there's two of them. There's like the inner layer and the outer layer. The first one, it was like 5 minutes to get through, and the second one's an hour and a half to get through.
Are we talking like on the moon at this point, or are we on our way to the moon at this point?
On the way to the moon. So that's why this was so hard to get to the moon, is because they thought this radiation belt would. I mean, the astronauts
kill them, right? Like
kill them, radiation poisoning, right? Like it's way too much. They didn't think it was possible to bring a human through there. Even the astronauts, when they came back and they were asked about it, they said that even when their eyes were closed, they saw flashes of light, NASA claimed that it was like the aluminum in the spaceship was enough to reject a lot of these protons that were coming through, but. Scientifically, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but
I've researched, it's like a fact-based book that I've been researching most of my life, The Fantastic Four. They basically went through this belt and turned into the Thing, and Invisible Woman, and the Stretchy Man. All these things happen. This is fact, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's based on reality.
But that amount of radiation, how could aluminum be the thing that...
Well, they did this test in '62 called the Starfish Prime. I think it was the Japanese. I could be wrong on that. It could have been the Russians, but it was in the '62. It was a nuclear. You're gonna look it up. It was a high alternative nuclear test in 1962, and it was to get through this belt to see if they were able to do it, and it was a failed test in '62, and they never surpassed it again until they tried it with humans on it when they did it going to the moon. So it was already a failed test going into it, and then now this happened. And
with everything radiation-wise, from what I understand, it has radiant technology on it. Like, it continues afterwards. Like, if you go to Chernobyl, it's still to today got a high radiation rating.
So
was there any testing on them afterwards that we know of, or anything that's like, hey, this is a possibility? Because that would be a bit solid, like. Maybe not proof.
Like, I mean,
check off, right?
The thing was that they said it would have, like, the materials and the ship was enough to reject these. But, I mean,
But wouldn't it be radiated when it came back?
That's what I was thinking, right? Like,
you think, right?
Things generate afterwards.
They don't really talk about that at all.
It's kind
of
wasn't really,
and that would seem like the hardest barrier to cross when you were going to the moon, was getting through those belts.
There's some people who say the film that they used, because they were using
would have been destroyed and fogged up.
That makes complete sense, actually.
But they said now I'm going to go like the other way. They said that they had it in a special container that it was like preventing these rays from getting it in. Yeah, lead box. That's what they said.
Maybe.
That's possible. Like, that makes sense, because lead will...
I mean, they're trying to get something into space, so I think weight's a concern. But yeah, they could have a lead box.
Actually, we're going to talk about that after, because weight is... That kind of goes into the conspiracy and why we haven't returned to the moon. And weight was kind of like one of the things. Because another thing when we went to the moon was
people are too fat now?
It was really badly documented. You know what I mean? Like, it was... too heavy, can't go.
Yeah,
but it was really badly documented. Like, it was... Like, they didn't bring any real good cameras to the moon when they were there, which you think you'd have a better outreach of... Yeah, you're that far out, you could probably see the galaxy, like, 10 times better from there. Right, going to the dark side of the moon, checking it out, see if you get some. Like, I mean, you'd be able to see the stars from that side, right? And you could probably get some beautiful shots and some beautiful. But it was really poorly documented, and it was really low. They didn't take very many pictures. I think they released 20 pictures after it happened, and the 20 pictures is where all the controversy is going to come from. And we'll talk about the issue with the 20 pictures. But there wasn't. NASA had to go through once they'd taken the pictures before it went to the press. It was still. Like, a lot of things were edited through the pictures. There was a lot of engineers, a lot of people that worked with NASA that said that they came out and said that they did a lot of fabricating to the pictures, and there was a lot done to alter what the original picture looked like.
Jeez.
I've heard
and
these
it went
stories.
through NASA before it went through the press. Like, it wasn't just released to the public; it was filtered before it went through.
To this day, to this day, NASA still does that, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Is they alter the color on some of them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense they would do, like, I don't know.
And they erase some things, and they...
I mean, there are
well, that's what I
live
was thinking,
streams.
is erasing things. Like, because if you want to take something out, something that you don't want somebody to see, right? Like, Buzz fucking waving at the camera could be high-fiving an alien. Just take the alien out, right?
Yeah,
But-
just Photoshop.
Yeah, Photoshop it out. But that my thing is that back then, because my dad his family's always been a very, like, camera-heavy family. They buy the best cameras they could. So I've seen my family history through cameras. Back around that time, even the best pictures that they had were still not that great. So,
No.
like, I mean, to see something like in that environment, to see stars, I could possibly see it not picking it up. You know, those cameras,
Sure, yeah,
even
yeah.
the best ones weren't the greatest.
They need a lot of light. I don't know how much light is available.
Yeah, that was the thing, right? And then also with the pictures, we'll kind of get into some of the issues with this one, like the pictures that were released. One of them we'll start with was the flag moving. So when they,
I've heard so
yeah.
much about this, yeah.
which is like, have you ever watched the video for it?
No, I've never seen the video.
It's actually super funky though. Like it is weird. Like they do put the astronauts will play like they're bouncing around and hopping around the flag.
You've probably seen it on MTV.
Oh,
the
yes, okay, yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's the one that they always
MTV
play.
is a Canadian music television.
Well, MTV's the American one. Ours is
Oh, is it?
Much Music.
Oh, never mind.
Much Music is the Canadian one, yeah. But they did that too. They'd always have that one playing. Now that you're mentioning it, I do remember that.
Well, the flag is like how it was posted. It's like a straight bar and then a parallel bar on top, so the flag hangs because it's zero atmosphere.
It
It
should
was
just
just
be-
hanging down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is this bar kind of like mounted on top of this flag to keep it so that, I mean, it's hanging. You can see it, right? But the issue with it is there's not going to be any wind. There's like none of those are factors in a zero gravity atmosphere. Where there's pictures and the video of this flag, the astronauts jumping by these flags, and the flag kind of waving in the background.
Yeah.
Which is super fishy because that wouldn't happen, right? So the argument to it, I'll give like the kind of the other side to it, was that, I mean, the video wasn't the greatest for sure. Like, I mean, it was good enough to tell that this flag was moving though. It's good enough to know that this astronaut's not touching it, right? It looks very apparent that this astronaut's not touching it. He's just going behind it. And then it looks like a little wind drift is making the flag shake. Super fishy.
Yeah, but that could also be attributed to just motion, right? Like when it could have had residual effect from like when they first put it up or something. Because like it depends.
Or
on
you could have bumped it.
Yeah,
or
without-
something.
And yeah, because technically, if you would have like rippled it with your hand, I think it would keep going for a
little
long
bit.
time.
Yeah, it
'cause
would
there's-
be because
there's not
zero,
much
like,
to-
the resistance is even less up there, right?
Yeah, there's not much to slow it
But
down.
the issue with that is like in the video, it's like it is still at first. Like
Okay.
it looks mounted, it looks still,
And then
he
it
jumps
vanishes.
around it behind it, and then it kind of flutters a bit.
Invisible
Which is
aliens.
the weird thing about it.
It's invisible.
Yeah.
Interdimensional
it so-
child
It
molesters.
was Bigfoot that they had to take out of the background.
Yeah, of course.
Super fun. Like, I mean, there could be some arguments where it's like when you're jumping, there could be some debris maybe coming up from the.
Yeah,
from
which
the
you
moon.
wouldn't necessarily pick up in that camera.
It's really fishy. That's why it's super juicy, and that's one of the big factors to me that convinced me that.
Well, I've always
Yeah.
heard that the flag one is like it's one of most conspiracy theorists' top arguments is the flag, the way that it's sitting on there.
Because it's not really explained very well.
Yeah,
There's nothing
absolutely.
really coming out saying that this is what caused it, and the astronauts never said anything about it. And like, there's not really any, since you don't get many interviews with these astronauts who did go there, and they haven't talked much about it, and then all you're left with is like this video of a flag fluttering in outer space. It raises questions, right, instantly.
Well, I mean-
it's hard to explain, right?
Look at us, we're just three schmucks, and look at the questions we're asking.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Right?
that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's another thing, like, I don't know if you guys ever seen the moon rocks that were taken. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The pictures of the moon rocks that were taken. There's some moon rocks that, and for sure they look like paper mache. I'm not saying they are, but like
They look like it.
they look exactly like paper mache. On a couple of them, they have the letter C on it. Have you seen that? There's like a C on one of the moon rocks, and then a C on the ground, like underneath it, looking like it was like engraved or carved in or something. Like it definitely looks like a letter. It definitely looks like a C. What they've said was that it could have been a hair that they caught, but the weirdest part about this whole picture thing was that there was a moon rock with a C on it. They took the exact same picture of the same moon rock on an X mission, and there was no C on it anymore.
So yeah, but then we've already
They took the same
established
rod,
that they
they marked the same
photoshopped the
rod.
stuff, right?
So it's photoshopped. Yes. So the pictures have been altered.
But for them
That's
to
for
alter
sure.
it means that it was significant enough for them to be like, oh
Why would
shit,
you wanna alter
to take it off.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it means, it still has that.
Why would you fuck with it?
What's the point?
There's also, I don't know the exact specifics behind it, but we ended up, when I say we, I don't know why, but the Americans ended up giving, I believe it was a moon rock. They gave it to someone, some minister or something, someone in politics. They gave it to them as a gift. And it was later revealed that that was fossilized wood.
Oh, that in the Netherlands.
That was the
It's
Netherlands. Okay.
Yeah, it ended up being wood.
Yeah, it was
And
fossilized
it was a
wood.
gifted, it was
From
a
America,
gifted
like
moon
from
rock.
the Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They gifted like this moon rock, and it wasn't a moon rock
Yeah,
at all.
no,
it was wood.
it was
They found
wood.
out after a while.
Yeah, but who's to say that? Okay, no, there's no wood up there.
Who's to say there's no
I'm
wood
trying,
on the
I'm just
moon?
trying, but again, I'm scraping.
Who's to say there's no wood up there?
Well,
There's a tree on the dark side of the moon. How do you know?
the moon
right?
might be made of cheese.
That
Could
is a
be.
possibility.
That's
Heard that
my
somewhere.
yeah.
I think we go
Wallace
with
and
that one.
Gromit. Has anyone seen that?
Oh yeah, of course I've seen Wallace and Gromit.
Love that shit.
I know more about that than the moon landing.
Another weird thing with the moon landing too is the pods. That when one of the concerns that they had was when they would launch this pod or when they'd land this pod on the moon, that it would create such a crater in the moon that they'd have issues getting it out or it would destroy the ship. Or have you ever seen the pictures of the pod landing? It almost looks like nothing is like because you think of all these
Yeah, it doesn't look
rejecting jet
disturbed.
fuel coming right,
It would
blasting
stir
out.
shit up regardless.
It's got
yeah.
and there's like no moisture, right? Like
Yeah,
on
it looks
the
like it
moon.
just kind of.
So, but it just looked like it popped on there. There was nothing left underneath it, and it was just. It's a really funky thing to look at. And when he's hopping off this pod too, that's when you see like these unparalleled shadows, right? So like shadows should all be facing towards the sun, correct? They should all run parallel, correct?
Absolutely,
We're on the
yeah.
same page?
Yeah, we agree with that.
Whereas like when this guy's hopping off this pod, he's in the shade. So first of all, it's weird that you can see him in the shadow coming off his pod. Second, there's no crater underneath the pod when he's coming off of it, and like it looks. I wish we could just pull up this picture for everyone, but like you can look at it yourself.
That's what the Facebook page is for. If you want to check it out, check us out at Facebook /WTFN. Little shot. We can put some pictures up there, and we'll make sure we do that so our fans can kind of take a look at the stuff.
Super funky, and the shadows aren't all running parallel, which is the other, which raises questions. It looks like there's hot spots in a lot of the pictures, which really just comes from a spotlight. So it's like,
Okay.
which shouldn't happen either, right?
Well, yeah, a lot of people thought it was a stage or something that they.
I know this is the most I know about the moon landing. There was a conspiracy going where Stanley Kubrick had actually been the person to stage the moon landing, and Stanley Kubrick, through his movies, have been trying to tell the world without necessarily saying it by putting little references in his movies. The Shining is a great example by the room number and stuff like that. There's I can't get into all of it, but there's a great documentary you can check called Room 307. Check it out. It goes really in depth on some of the stuff about his possibility of being part of the moon landing.
He made it like when he recreated it. I mean, it looks like the moon landing, right? Like it looks like, and especially when they've done their like demos beforehand, when they were doing all their testing, and like it looks very It looks exactly like they did it when they're doing their demonstrations and they're doing their practice runs. I mean, I guess that's why it's a practice run, right? You're trying to simulate it, but it looks exactly like
like the ones that are released, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You see a boom mic hanging down.
It's super funky, man. It's like, and these weird hot spots and the shadows.
Well, there was
looks
that
really funky.
There was that one picture. I don't remember who it was, but it was a picture. They released it before the moon, like when they were prepping before they actually went to the moon, where it was one of the astronauts, and I believe he was like hanging off like marionette wires or some shit, something like that.
Yanked up by them.
Yeah,
I've
and
seen
then
that picture too. I always just assumed that it was doctored that way.
well, they later released it along with the moon landing pictures, and those wires were removed, and the background was changed.
Yeah, like these pictures were released.
Yeah,
And
they're very clearly doctored.
Wow. Okay, yeah, that's like I've seen the picture that you're talking about, but I didn't see the combination of both. Like seeing them afterwards without the strings on them.
I'll see if I can pull those up.
I'll have to take a look at those ones.
Yeah, it's super funky. It raises a lot of questions. Like it's a good reason that like people like me too look at it and it's like.
Another thing I've heard, I don't know if you have this in there, but one of the things that people like to quote is they say, if we're in this massive space race, like literally almost a war, because this was during the Cold War where everyone was building nukes, You would think they would have some sort of backup plan, like in case something fucked up, like another rocket exploded, which has happened several times. You'd think they would have a backup plan.
Well, it's weird that like it went successful kind of when it did.
Yeah.
Right?
When we needed it to.
When we needed it to.
Anytime I've heard this happening, like talking about the moon, it's always been not just the race to space, but it was the whoever gets there first. Essentially, in the heads of the people, have won the war.
Well, it did end shortly later.
It did, yeah.
And a lot of people kind of feel that was one of the big contributing factors. Is it true? Is it not? I don't know, but I know that like just speaking to people that lived through that, they've always kind of said this is kind
everyone knew it was the peak of technological advances. It was like who was the dominant country, who was the dominator of the world, and it was everyone knew it was USS versus America, right? It was the Western world versus the Eastern world. That's just how it was. It was a lot on the line. Like I said, $30 trillion taxpayer money. Could you imagine if it would have failed? Like, what would have happened with, like, think of, like, all that money and the investment that the people made, the promises presidents made, all this, the top of the Cold War, nukes were getting made, all this was at the peak, and then this mission would have failed?
I think
like there was way too much at risk.
It's too much on the line.
Everything was on the line.
If you take some consideration into where America was sitting at that point and the USS was sitting at that point, USS was a fairly young country. It was young. It had just started
well, the USSR ended at what, 91?
91, yeah. But I mean, it started. Where was the start of that? Was it in 1901 or something? I can't remember when it established itself as this.
Mm-hmm.
It was fairly early because it was a younger country than America. But even in the grand scheme of things, America is still a fairly young country in comparison to like Britain and the UK and stuff. They had a lot at stake because this is two up and coming countries, right? Like, who's going to be the power force of the world? I mean, clearly we now live in a world that we can see exactly who's the powerhouse at the moment, anyway. Not saying that Japan isn't running up high at the moment either, but I think that is like one of those things that had to be taken into consideration on winning, and like whether it's faked or it isn't, getting out to the public saying that we've done this. Here's something that speaks volumes.
Yeah, it was everything at this time, right? So space travel would have kind of ended for the United States if that mission didn't happen. Like, where would NASA get its funding from if they had $30 billion and
wasted
it and got nothing from it and took $30 trillion billion from taxpayers?
It's funded until now, and at this point they're starting to lose their funding again. So.
I think
they lost their funding a while ago.
They lost their funding. I think they lost 44% of their funding after the moon landing, like at 72, like after the last Apollo.
Well, yeah, there would be a huge.
So that's one of the huge debates too, is why we haven't gone back to the moon, is because it is a funding issue.
Well, now we're trying to go to Mars. Like nowadays, everything is privately funded. The shit that's going to
Kickstarter to Mars.
Yeah. The shit that's going to the International Space Station, that's all going through Elon Musk's SpaceX, where he keeps blowing up rockets, and he blew up that Facebook rocket.
The Facebook.
I never heard that one.
He keeps doing these tests because his whole thing is he's trying to make rockets that, instead of just crashing back to Earth in the water, that they have boosters and they can land so we can recycle them.
Oh, okay,
He's been testing them. I think he's had one successful test and like 8 bad ones where they've blown up.
You're not about your failures, you're only about your successes. In those
especially when you have Elon Musk money.
Well, yeah, okay, fair enough.
And yeah, it blew up a Facebook satellite, though. That this Facebook satellite was gonna go in space and like give internet to people in third world countries.
Why is Mars, do you think, such a hot topic? Because it could be inhabitable?
I think it's
because everybody's jumped on this doomsday thing. Like, we're going to die. And clearly that is going to happen someday. It's not going to be within our lifetimes, though. Like, we're not. I'm probably get a little flack for it, but I don't think anytime between now and when you or me are dead, that we're going to have the end of the world happen to us.
No.
But everybody's got it in their head right now that this is something.
But there's so many more ways that the world's going to come to an end, right? Like, meteors coming, meteors are in Earth.
Mass extinction.
Ice age, right?
Global thermonuclear war.
Which
is what I'm hoping for.
Things that, can bring the Earth to its demise.
Yeah, my buddy Steven.
Jacob.
So the one that you were teaching how to make a computer?
No, that's my other buddy. I don't teach this guy anything.
But that's what I'm trying to say is, like, I think I think that instilled in people's heads is they're like, well, what's our next option? Because clearly, like going to the moon, not an option, like to inhabit. Maybe Mars is the option. I think there's been a lot of evidence stating that
Why are
Mars
we
was
jumping?
at one point.
Why do you think we're jumping to Mars when we haven't mastered the moon?
Because it's easier than fixing Earth.
That is. It sounds stupid, but I think that's truth. I think that speaks more volumes than any other answer we can give.
Well, I think people think it's easier than fixing the Earth. I don't think it actually is.
No, well, you'd have to have self-sustaining environments to live in there. It can't be through Mars, because Mars is not inhabitable the way that it is. You have to have your own kind of like dome world that you live in. Like we've all seen it in Total Recall. It's the same sort of deal, you know. Like
I think it's gonna be a cool thing to like analyze to see. Okay, you got like say 30 people living on Mars, and now you're gonna see if like is one person gonna be kind of the leader? Is it like you got the refresh button on society,
everything, yeah,
right? So you get to decide. So the issue is, I think when they're doing these 30 people, like you know how they're have you heard about this show that's gonna be aired? That
There's
gonna
a
be
show?
They're gonna like do
a
a show.
Oh, I knew that
where
was
they're
coming.
gonna bring
God
these
damn it.
people and record what's happening.
It's gonna be the Truman Show.
It's gonna be the Truman Show on Mars.
What's the distance
But
between
the issue
Mars
is
and
like,
their
so they're
time-wise?
getting one
Current technology, 6 months.
6 months? Okay, so we'd be 6 months behind.
Six
They
to-
can fall dead for
6 to
6
9
months. We
months.
wouldn't even fucking know.
Yeah.
Not even a clue.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Now
it's weird,
that's
but like
real
the
reality.
people you gotta bring gotta be like how they did it was weird, right? Like a bunch of people applied, and then they were taking like they obviously need like a doctor, or they need an engineer, or they need
No,
you know
it's
what I
just
mean?
send
They need
bums up there, man.
specific people. But like yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like if you pick one wrong person out of 30, right? Say if you pick one wrong person out of 10, right? There's a 10%, like 10% of your people up there are gonna be, you know, evil or bad or like, you know what I mean, or set out with the wrong intentions, or you know what I mean. So it's very, you got to be like super select. We're rambling on.
I think there's no good way this could
There's no
end.
good way.
Yeah.
But that's a solid point though. Like that situation. Like,
10% of your planet.
Yeah,
look at,
exactly.
I'm sorry I'm bringing this one up, but the Columbine. I was researching a little bit on that, and the kid that did that was so fucking normal to everybody.
Yeah.
And
Killing
it's just because
people.
he passed like psychological exams. His parents couldn't even fucking tell that he was lying all the time. Like,
Well, one of them.
how-
The other one they could tell.
well, yeah, I'm just talking about the one. Yeah,
Yeah.
Not both. But the point is that there's people out there that can fucking convince you of anything.
What's their names?
So, like,
Eric
how-
Harris.
Eric Harris is
yeah.
the one that I'm talking about. Yeah,
You
he's the
get
one.
one sour grape on a place like that on the reset
That's all it
button,
takes.
and then it's all gone again, right? Like you gotta.
Who
I don't know.
chooses
I
to-
think you gotta be real strategic on who you're putting up there. I think the best way is just a bunch of hippies.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Just
just
people that are like happy, you know what I mean, like mentally stable, not needing much out of life, right? Because they're abandoning everything they have here. So it's got to be people that are just like
Don't wanna
content
be here.
with not having everything, that don't need to be here. Like, because you think of me, like say if you have a family, right? Like, or you know, even your wife, right? Imagine you trying to like leave her, and you know what I mean. Like, you kind of got to be
Bye, honey. I'm going to Mars.
I don't know if I'm gonna be
right.
there.
It's hard for like a real stable family man, guy, like this role model human being is what you'd think. To take him away from Earth and put him on Mars.
Yes,
Like,
let's just send
what is
fuck
this
us.
person like? How
What snap
how
did
can
they
this
get
person want to leave? Yeah, right.
Like
it's
everything behind.
It's really hard. I think it would be
You have to
select
find that
those
like
people.
secluded person, the one that like
Yeah.
doesn't really hang out with anybody, stays at home, plays video games all the time.
Don't look at me like that.
But you would have to find that. But
Going to Mars,
So you're going to Mars.
I believe NASA announced something today that they're officially going towards Mars.
Well, they said they also, but NASA also said that by 2020 they want to bring men back to the moon.
And I think
Why?
that's the original point is that I think why did we stop the moon stuff, right? And then
Like,
jump
it's
to
been
Mars.
42 years. We got so much. You know, it was such a huge peak for our accomplishment. There was so much to study. There was, and like it just ended. Right.
I mean-
like, it was like the Apollo missions were done. The funding kind of collapsed a bit. But they got their objective out there, and then this came to an end when there was so much more they could have done while they were on the moon.
Do they
and
feel
how
that
they could experience
I
it.
don't
maybe
know,
the moon
man.
doesn't have anything to offer anymore?
That's
'Cause,
what I
like,
was thinking.
Like if you think of it like this, right? Like because the percentages, if we go percentage-wise, right?
Sure.
We have examined a higher percentage of the moon than we have deep ocean,
Yep, definitely.
percentage-wise.
It's
Do you
actually
think
easier
maybe
to
they
explore
have,
the moon.
well, yeah. Do you think maybe they have all the information they feel they need? Maybe that's a possibility. Maybe they feel that like it's
No.
barren. There's
But,
nothing we
like,
can
think
do.
of-
They're
like-
they're gonna go back to the moon and they're gonna find like a race of sheepdog that are like incredibly smart, And
there's
they're
some weird
flying.
conspiracies saying that there is life on Mars. There's
Oh,
some
yeah,
weird
definitely.
Ziggurats that are placed on them. Like there's pictures
Bigfoot,
of ziggurats
man.
living underneath or whatever.
Yeah, it's
I've
super,
seen-
yeah, it's strange. I've
In
seen
the
some
hollow
pictures.
moon.
Who knows about those pictures?
I've been
Who knows?
more inclined to the moon videos and stuff that I see because they're like because of Facebook and shit now. Imagine having Facebook back in like when the moon race happened. That shit would be fucking all over that shit.
I don't think we would have ever survived.
Probably not.
Everyone would have died.
Yeah, that would have been too much.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, like, still, all these conspiracies would be even tenfold higher than what we are doing right now. Like,
Well, I think now, and this is, I'm going to dip into the conspiracy side of things. I think now, like with the technology that we do have, and being able to take stable pictures now on the moon with way higher quality of cameras, like you got to think it's been 42 years, right? More than that. It's been more than that. So you got to think it's been like close to 50 years.
Yep.
Okay, that we've been there. So like since then, our cameras. Are like everything at our telescopes. Like, why can't we just bring like a fucking sweet ass telescope and then see the universe for what it is from the moon, right? Like, you'd be able to your reach would be way farther, right? Like, you'd be able to know 10 times more about our galaxy if you just set up that telescope that you can see the moon on from Earth. If you set that shit up on the moon. You know what I mean? And you can get way better pictures. You can get way better people exploring. We have the rovers now that we've put on Mars and stuff that you could bring to the moon. You could maybe experiment the dark side of the moon. You could bring, you know what I mean? Like the indents of people, like the footprints of the astronauts that were on
still
there.
there. Yeah.
They're still there, right? That suggests that there's moisture almost on the moon, right? Because there was no dust cloud. There's no, right? Like there's
To an
imprinted
extent,
footprints that haven't gone anywhere, which is also a questionable thing. But like, why would you not want to advance from where? And I think that's where the conspiracy even gets juicy. Is like, how could you, if say you didn't do it, right? And now with the cameras and all the technology that we have, they even had a live feed when they the Australians were actually supposed to take the recording from when the first moon landing happened, and they were supposed to be the ones delivering it to the world, and they cut off the feed like right after.
They still do that. They still have live feeds, and they still cut them off all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why.
So it's weird, questionable stuff, right? It's like, so like now is the debate we didn't go, so that's why we can't go back. Like, it's been 40, almost 50 years, and we're not going back because we have the technology now that you can't really bullshit either. I don't know, right? It makes it more juicy to think that.
That's another solid question, though. Like, put yourself on the end of the person or the people that got there. Okay. They now have this technology to go to Mars and put themselves on Mars and be able to film on Mars and see all these things. If they didn't do the moon officially, like it was a hoax, okay? Why wouldn't they go do that now? Why wouldn't they? Because now they have the chance to, and it's much easier to get there at this point because you've already gotten to Mars with this type of thing. Why wouldn't they just be like, okay, well, let's get whatever footage we can from there? That's leaning towards the non-conspiracy side, right? Like, well, we've already been there, so let's go to the next thing, right? As opposed to, well, we never actually were there, so we've gotten here and let's get up there.
So you think it's kind of like a check mark?
Maybe.
Let's move to the next kind of thing?
And that's possibly.
Could be.
It could be, right? I just think you'd think it would be almost as easy to get to the moon as it would to Mars, though, no?
No, Mars is so much farther away.
That's what. But like, I mean, if you could do
Oh,
Mars,
yeah.
is what I'm saying.
The moon
Like,
would be
why aren't
easier.
you going to the moon?
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, because they've already been there, and they have this technology. Why
Okay, we got all we can know from this other planet. Forget it.
It doesn't have any gold. It doesn't have anything we can mine.
It's hollow. We figured that out, right?
Yeah.
So
We're better off going to, I think a big focus now is finding asteroids so we can mine those asteroids for their resources.
For diamonds and everything else.
Yeah, diamonds,
like
gold, all that.
Armageddon. Fucking get Bruce Willis up there.
Get fucking Bruce up there.
Ben Affleck can do a fucking lot up there too. I know I saw
Sure
it.
he could.
Sure he can do this. But yeah, it is a good point because those asteroids are coming from like fucking light years away,
and they're full of resources.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I think the hardest thing was the net one, right? Like, to actually
get
be able
on
to
it,
mine
yeah.
Right, or direct it somewhere.
I mean,
where
when you're
we're going
playing with
there.
that shit, it's pretty fucking scary too. Like, say you do get on there, maybe you change the trajectory of it by fucking around with it, right? Like, who's to say that you couldn't shoot it at yourself?
That's a hard thing to do, right?
And then you accidentally destroy Australia.
I think that it should be more than like our own, like for the reason of us like creating this, sending a rocket into space just to mine diamonds and material items just seems really silly to me too.
Well,
right?
we
Like,
could also find different atoms and shit that's on those.
I think like the diamonds and gold thing is kind of like the poor person's dream is more so like they wouldn't be like I don't think NASA's like, oh, there's a fucking gold planet out there. I'm gonna get all this gold.
We're not in the ground shuffling gold anymore.
It sounds like a fucking Rocky and Bullwinkle like storyline.
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna get the gold from that planet. Like I don't think they're doing that, but
I've actually
like,
heard
chemicals
this,
and
though.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they're gonna. Well, we're depleting our planet full of the resources. So if we could go off planet for those resources and let our planet regenerate for a while, I think that could be a good thing.
But do you think going into depth with that, do you think that's even possible? Do you think you're going to
Not
get enough
now.
private investors, enough private companies to just say that's an end to it? The government saying that's an end to it? That's an end to mining resources. We don't want your interest anymore from all this.
I mean, Mars.
There's no way in hell. We are way too corrupt to say there's an end to mining.
No, I'm not saying there's an end, but do you not think that if someone finds out that there's a fucking solid gold fucking chunk floating through space, do you not think they'd be like, yeah, let's send someone up there and get that?
We know there's
Yeah, true. There's
that
gold
is
on
known,
it.
but it's like the risk involved with taking it is the issue, right?
They don't
And
care about
harvesting
risk.
it back to Earth. And,
Yeah, like I mean, if you think about the resources you waste just to get there, and then to get that stuff
with
and
all
then bring
the
it back with all that
tax,
extra
a
waste.
lot of these you got to remember now it's not so bad, but you got to remember a lot of these space organizations are funded by taxpayers.
Yeah.
Like the people, right? So with them not having a say in what they want to do with this money, like if I was a taxpayer and they told me that they wanted to harvest a fucking bring in a meteor so I can just get taxed and pay for that fucking diamond that they took from my money getting them there. Now I gotta pay taxes.
I assume this
that fucking
treat
diamond,
it like
buy it,
co-op,
and put it
you know,
on.
like,
I assume this
What
would
a
be
fucking
private
sick
companies.
system that is.
like co-op gives you a check for shares for
Profit
sharing.
sharing.
Just do this profit sharing with the diamond. Diamond Planet, I will definitely invest in that.
There's
if I'm
no
gonna get a share.
so all the taxpayers get a from that country that hauls this fucking meteor.
They're just all of a
They
sudden
get fucking
Australia's
profit
fucking
sharing on it.
rich.
So we're all exactly.
filthy fucking rich.
They're the dominants. Yeah, like, I don't know. That's fucking fishy. But nonetheless, it makes for a super juicy conspiracy, this moon landing, because there's so much evidence to say otherwise. Because of all the, like we talked about, the craters, the belts, the flag moving, the spotlights on the pictures, there's a million reasons why this could be a failed, like what we talked about, could be a failed mission or a fake mission.
Oh, it's definitely weird. Yeah.
Super weird. When it happened, what was at risk? Knowing all of this, I'm gonna ask you the same question that you asked me at the end of yours. Do you think the moon landing was a hoax?
Ooh, that's such a powerful question. And like, I mean, mine was a pretty powerful. That's really like punch to the gut.
Do
powerful.
you think the moon
Fuck,
landing was
that's
a hoax?
put me on the spot. Aaron, you go first.
No.
Oh, it's me.
I want
It's
Ed to go
fucking me.
first.
All right. Fuck. I want to say yes, it's real, just because I grew like it's kind of like the argument with religion, right? Like, why are you Christian? I was raised that way. Kind of the same sort of deal.
You were
right?
meant to believe that.
I was taught this, so like it's hard to deviate away from that, just because of that. But like evidence involved and like everything that we can take from it, there's too many questions is what it is to make it be like that are unanswered, to make it be like, oh, this is a hoax or this is that, right?
Yes.
So you kind of almost have to sit yourself in the fucking middle of it and follow these questions, and nobody's answering them, right? Like,
Well, like just to throw this at you, 1 in 15 people today believe that the moon landing is a hoax. 1 in 15.
I believe that.
So if we're talking about a better reason to go to the moon, and we're talking about, like why I haven't gone back to the moon and we're going to Mars, I think that's another reason. Is like you just like make a little fucking pit stop to the moon. All right, take some fucking good pictures.
Just prove it to these
Show us that
people.
you can fucking do it 20, 40, 50 years later. Show us that you can still do it, and prove to the 1/15th of the country of the world that this is a fucking real thing and that we can get to the moon.
Okay, here's my answer. Here's my actual answer.
Okay.
I'm not a religious man, but I am definitely a scientific man. I believe in science. I always have. You can shine a laser at the fucking moon and it will reflect back at you on something that they have there. That is proof enough for me. And I say that yes, we have been there. I believe it, and I'm choosing to believe that. Mainly based off of the scientific fact that I do know. Not based off of the questions, because there's a lot of questions there to make you question, have you been there? But I'm going to say yes, we have been there. It has happened, and we have at least some tangible evidence saying that we have been there. And I'm going to go with that.
Okay.
It's a hologram.
It's a hologram. You son of a bitch.
No. I don't think that.
What do you think? What do you think, Aaron?
There's a lot of evidence both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like
So let me say this in science. You said you're a science believer. If something is definitive, aren't you allowed to question it when it comes to science?
Absolutely, and that's what I'm trying
Do we
to
know
say.
everything's definitive?
No.
No.
We don't.
No. I think there's more questions to be answered.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would lean towards that we went there, but I wouldn't say 100%.
I would be in the same position.
I'd say probably 80. We did go there.
I think you're right. I think there's a really good chance that we did go there. But also, there's a lot of reason to believe we didn't go there. So that's why it makes it such a juicy conspiracy. And until we fucking go back there, if we make a little pit stop in 2020,
but
we go back there and I see a million.
Gas.
I'm going to be one of those weird, I'm going to be a conspiracy theorist on this one. And I'm going to go with, that's a tough one, right? I want to believe that it's true.
But even if we go
there,
I
know, what I've been shown, and again, I'm not a scientist or an engineer, what I've been shown and the documentaries I've watched and what I've seen for myself makes it really convincing that it's not true. That's all I'm going to say about it.
I agree with that aspect too. There's all the questions that are up there are like, they make you fucking think. And like really heavily think about the possibility.
I think the biggest thing is that we haven't gone back, right?
That's
the
But even if we go back, that's not going to prove that we went there before.
It's just saying that we were there now.
Whoa, that's true too. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
That's a new way of thinking of it.
But do you think it would just be satisfying enough to those 1 in 15 people?
No, of course
I
not.
don't think it'd be.
That needed to happen, right? We got to understand that needed to happen in 6
It had
to
no
happen.
denying that.
It had to. Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that. And that 1 in 15 people to convince them, I don't think. And this is my personal thought. I don't think anything we say will convince them.
Yeah, I think we can convince some of them, but there's always those Eddie Bravos out there who are just gonna believe whatever the fuck they want to believe.
Yeah, they don't want to because they have purpose when they have a question, and that's where they kind of sit on it. So like everything's a conspiracy to them, and they will build a conspiracy out of anything. I've been saying from the very beginning is like when people can't believe something, they tend to make it's hard to believe. They tend to make a conspiracy out of it so that they can make an excuse for a reason why something has happened.
Conspiracies are juicy, right?
Oh yeah. Everybody, it's like
it's fun
staring
to
at a car
question
wreck when you're driving by. You have to see what the fuck happened, right?
Yeah.
And it's sort of the same concept, you have to see what's going on. Like the questions are there, and you want to keep doing it. So,
and there wasn't enough answers to this conspiracy.
Oh boy,
for me to be 100%. I'm okay with 80%, like we said, like Aaron said, but I'm not diving in 100%.
Normally, I would sit on that side of the question aspect. I think I have to be blissfully ignorant on this one. I think I do. It just because of raising the way it got raised. Not to knock any other's opinion on it. Just I got raised that way. It's an opinion.
Yeah, it's an opinion.
It's hard not to. Well, are we gonna try and dip into Aaron here? What time are we sitting at?
Yeah, I think let's go for it.
Let's go for it. All right. Oh boy, you guys are in for a good one here. Great job, Dwight. That was awesome information.
Yeah, you really covered it really well.
Cool, good.
That was very good. I enjoyed that.
Hope all your minds are open.
Well, I definitely asked more questions on that than I thought I ever would. That's for sure.
It's a juicy one.
It is. It really is. I never really thought of it as a juicy one. Like I've always heard it, but never really thought much about it. It's always just been like I'm like, oh yeah, okay, fake one, gotcha. But like actually hearing presented facts and stuff like that has made it more tangible and more like on the front lobe of my head.
Mission accomplished.
Definitely. That was really good. Thanks, Dwight.
Aaron.
So, this one I have been waiting for. This is the conspiracy that's not a conspiracy.
Yeah, this is pretty popular. There's a couple ways you can go with it. I'm going to stick to the factual side, and then if we have time, I'll go on a little bit to the little outer limits of the theory. But what I'm talking about today is Project MK Ultra.
Ooh, been hearing this my whole, for the past 10 years of my life.
A lot of people have heard the term MK Ultra, but don't know what exactly it is.
That's me.
What is MK Ultra?
MK Ultra was a program commissioned by originally the OSS, which is what the CIA was before it was the CIA.
What does that stand for?
The OSS?
Yeah.
I don't think I have it somewhere, but I believe it's the Office of the Security Service.
Okay.
I would have to double check that.
Whether it's right or not, I'm good with that.
This is good enough.
Sounds good.
Let's just go with it.
So, the whole point of this was this was around World War II and the the Cold War. MK Ultra began in the early 1950s. There were programs before that. Another one of the programs I'm probably going to talk about is they call it Operation Edgewood, which was pretty much the same thing. Now, MK Ultra is...
OSS is the Office of Strategic Services.
Awesome.
I was close.
Yeah, that's very close.
So I'll take a half point for that.
Yes.
Sorry, carry on.
So MK Ultra was the big program. They had a bunch of smaller programs under it, but it was the branch. And basically their goal was to try and find a way to get a truth serum out of people, get the truth out of them. They were going to try and find a way to implant false memories in people. They were going to try mind control techniques, and they were going to try to just basically break a person as much as they could.
How disgusting does that sound?
Actually intriguing. Like,
super intriguing. But...
So here's where my intriguing thing is that implanting memories into somebody's head, you could be a fucking CIA agent. You just put the memory in your head. You were that person at that point in your life, right?
This is where...
This is a whole new way of taking a trip, you know? Like, not like a drug trip, but a trip. Like, instead of being like... imagine being like 70 years old and you're like, you've done nothing with your life. You can have the best fucking life anybody has ever had by implanting it. That's where the intriguing part comes. So just to see where I'm getting on.
It was a lot darker than that.
Yeah,
but yeah,
no, I know that's not what they were using.
That's
for.
the good. Yeah,
but,
well, this is.
Do you want to be that person that they're twigging on this and that in your head?
This is where the Manchurian.
What it means, what it does.
This is where the Manchurian Candidate comes from, and that's what that is. That they would implant a memory into something or a trigger, a keyword where you can say it to them, and they would become an assassin, and then just not know it.
Like Bucky from fucking Captain America, the Winter Soldier. That's basically what he had. Is they had a keyword that if they spoke it to him, he snaps and he becomes this super soldier.
I believe.
Otherwise, he's just a regular soldier.
While I was researching this, a couple people were telling me that Captain America actually goes into some of that MK Ultra and is somewhat based on that.
A little bit, yeah. I don't think they use the same names. I'm not sure if it's MK Ultra that they use in there. I'm not a big Captain America buff when it comes to the comics, but I do know that they have some similarities to that. Again, I don't think it's MK Ultra that they use as a name. They might have. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I honestly, they have kind of dipped on this clearly with like the Winter Soldier and stuff.
Yeah. So, basically, how this started was right after World War II, there was an operation called Operation Paperclip. Now, these are just like code names that the CIA gives them. This was where we took a bunch of the really smart Nazi scientists and we wiped their slate clean and brought them into America. And they became our main scientists.
Isn't that fucked?
This is where we got
This
is where we got the rocket technology to send that man or not send that man to the moon.
Now, was this not almost like being held prisoner as the scientists?
Those scientists were some. You got to think
an
of how
extent.
sick and twisted those fucking scientists were, though.
So,
right?
yeah,
Because they were doing all these weird experiments on people involuntarily. Like this was like they would grab them and they would like twig on certain, neurons in your brain and certain nerves, and they would see what it would do. Right?
And I'll go into that more.
If I cut this, what happens?
They did some sick shit.
Yeah,
and then now you're wiping their clay clean, and you're bringing them to America
like fucking
as an
serial
American
fucking
scientist.
killer like mindset.
Oh, yeah,
just
like
fucking with people's bodies.
You can't be a stable person to do that. I would argue that all day.
Oh, I don't think there's much of an argument to have.
Willingly knowing that this person is a prisoner, and you're like
the beginning
fucking with their mind.
The beginning stages of operations and stuff with doctors and stuff, they would steal cadavers just to fucking do their shit because nobody would fund it because it was too fucking sick and twisted. We wouldn't have gotten our medical advancements to where they are today if they didn't do it. So these sick and fucking twisted people didn't do this thing.
We wouldn't be where we are. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
it's a weird way to think of it, actually.
The first one I'm going to talk about is Operation Edgewood. This was from 1948 to 1975. The U.S. Army Chemical Corps conducted classified human research at this place called Edgewood Arsenal in Maryland, in the States. They were going to evaluate the impact of low-dose chemical warfare on military, and then they were going to also try and find vaccines, and they were testing protective equipment. They actually created Kevlar, so some good has come out of this. They were also responsible for testing a bunch of gas masks. There's a really good documentary on
Did
this.
these people know that they were like gonna be doing this?
Soldiers,
was it? You know?
Well, the soldiers that they tested on were volunteers.
Okay.
Did they know what they were volunteering into?
No.
Okay, that's what I kind of
figured. The documentary Bad Trip to Edgewood goes on about this really well. A lot of the volunteers were people in the army for Operation Edgewood. They were people in the army, and they were volunteered. They were gonna like, hey, do you want to like test out this new equipment like gas masks and stuff, or do you want to do your regular duties? And all these people were like, whatever, we'll go do this weird shit because like we're off base or whatever.
It's kind of like the lazy aspect of it, like, I don't have to do what I normally do. I
Yeah.
can just fucking sit here and do nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I could see the mindset of going in there. Like I volunteered for jobs that I knew would be a little bit easier, just so I just kind of get a break of what I would normally.
Exactly. Especially if you're in the army.
Oh yeah, because there's tons of hard shit you have to deal with daily. Like being able to take a break from that, whatever you think it is, like even if it wasn't much of a break in your mindset, you're still thinking that hey, this is gonna be a lot easier than having to do my fucking drills for 8 hours. Like
yeah. So a lot of people volunteered for it. There was also a lot of testing done on unknowing people who just had no idea. But at first, some of the first experiments they did is they were testing out gas masks on goats to see the effectiveness of them.
Now, you used a term that I had a question about earlier, and this is relative to the testing out gas masks, is low-dose chemical warfare. Is that just for testing grounds, or what? Can you define what that is?
They were going to test low doses of different pharmaceuticals, different drugs, and to see
like LSD in the air and stuff like that.
they were going to see if they had any effect on the soldiers, if they could make them throw down their weapons.
This is going to sound really dumb, but is like this where that like the thought of that gay bomb and stuff like that came from?
I believe so.
Okay, all right, yeah, because I've always heard that term before, like a chemical that basically turns the soul. I don't know what the fuck they thought, like, because people thought of gay people completely differently back then.
Yeah.
But
there was a chemical imbalance.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, there's something chemically that did it. So like, if they can turn all the people gay, they're just gonna sit there fucking each other on the.
Yeah.
That's not like clearly we sit in a world where that's fucking dumb and ridiculous to think. But back then, there was a stigma behind that name, which is fucking terrible to think that it wasn't even all that long ago that they had this thought in their head. Like we were.
There was like a weird time in history where it was like such a terrible thing. You know what I mean? Like if you think about like soldiers and shit like that, like the 1400s, 1500s. Like they were all raping guys.
Oh
yeah. They go out on their missions to like
they were doing that in World War II.
What are we talking about? They've been doing it since the Roman times.
Yeah. Raping each other.
Gay has been around for fucking ever.
Forever. And there was a blink in history
where all of a sudden
it was like a terrible thing.
Yeah. Like what caused that blink?
Sorry,
Christianity.
Random thing.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Religion.
Yeah, it was huge, actually.
Yeah.
That's probably a big blink involved with that. So, okay, sorry, kind of went a little bit off topic there, but. So back to what we were talking about the low-dose chemical warfare and testing gas masks is what they were trying to do. So
yeah, a lot of people, some people have seen footage. There was there's a clip on YouTube where it was like black and white, and it's talking about giving these troops acid and how they were just walking normally, and then like later they became disoriented and stuff. That is from this documentary, Bad Trip to Edgewood.
Okay.
So it's a really good documentary. They show a lot of really good footage. It's kind of fucked up and hard to watch. At some parts, they give this cat insane doses of acid, and it just spasms and freaks out. Like, it's weird.
I don't know what it is. I can watch a person freak out, but I can't watch an animal.
Yeah.
There's something innocent about it. Sorry, it's a break off topic, but that's just how I feel about it. But, okay.
So in total, they tested about 254 different chemicals. A lot of them were like LSD and like they tested THC derivatives, benzodiazepines, but they also tested things like BZ gas, ZX gas, and sarin gas, which are really bad nerve gases. So like
I've heard of sarin gas.
I've heard sarin as well.
Well, it was just used in a chemical attack in Syria.
Yeah, in Syria?
Yeah. Yeah, they also use mustard gas and different nerve agents and stuff like that. They were testing how effective these things were, and they were also...
They used mustard gas to help with World War I.
World
War
yeah.
One was almost a chemical war, almost all.
That was the first chemical war.
Yeah,
right?
that's where the
And it was
Geneva
close to the
Convention.
last. They got outlawed during the First World War.
You catch a breeze going south, and you just
you
throw
fuck your own
mustard
people up,
bombs
like-
down and just
Yeah.
fuck up everyone. Yeah.
So technically, this stuff
really
is
bad.
illegal to use on people, and they were using it on volunteers who didn't really
That's
know.
a government-funded program that's doing this, by the way.
And they weren't going to the moon. They were fucking shooting
Fucking
people with
gassing
chemicals.
people.
This BZ is, I think, 3 times more powerful than sarin gas.
So, I mean, it's gonna kill you, right?
Well, one of the experiments they did is they took a syringe and squirted the shit on this guy. He didn't know what it was. They squirted like a little bit on the guy's arm, and like he said he was in pain for 3 days. Like this is stuff that they would have.
So imagine that going in your lungs, right?
Yeah, exactly. That they would have sprayed and weaponized.
Like, I understood like the merits of LSD because when you're on that stuff, like you're not at your right mind frame. You're not going to be able to pay attention to things. Like, I can see the thought process that they were going on with it. Like, okay, I can see this type of thing, but like some of these other things that they were trying to do, it didn't make logical sense to me. Like some of the stuff that they're doing, and this is speaking as an outsider from these situations.
The people who ran these experiments were fucked up people. There's reports of like people were going in the gas chambers, like these gas chambers they had there, and getting like mustard gas sprayed on them, and they would come back, but they weren't completely burned, so that they would tell them to get back in until they were just fucking destroyed. Yeah.
Wow.
They did this to about 7,000 U.S. military personnel and about 1,000 civilians.
Remember, be all that you can be.
That's crazy.
They also tested other drugs like PCP on them and alcohol and caffeine.
And just to be clear, this is like confirmed. This isn't the conspiracy.
No, this is
is
all
like-
confirmed.
confirmed.
This is
Like,
documented.
MK Ultra started out as a conspiracy with people like, but it almost everything is completely confirmed at this point. I think.
A lot of the files were destroyed, but there is still around 20,000 files about MK Ultra, plus a lot of documentation on this stuff. So yeah, they experimented with a lot of drugs.
Do you think it's like? Do you think looking at that as a like part of American history, do you think that's like arguably as bad as what Hitler was doing to some of the Jews?
Not
Like you're involuntarily
to some extent.
Percentage-wise, is
the
all I'm
amount of
saying.
people. Yeah,
that's
the
what I'm
amount
saying,
of
the amount of
people.
people. Yeah.
To give someone a psychedelic
Well, where does it
compound.
come? Like how many people to determine if you're terrible or if it's like is there a number like okay if you did this 20,000 people then it's worse than
Righteousness is in the eye of the beholder, right?
Yeah, it's all how you look at it. To kill someone, I say, okay, well, there's 2 ways to look at it. Some of the stuff they involuntarily gave these people massive doses. The average was they were getting 10 times the average dose for every drug they gave them. So if you were to give someone, that would be 1,000 micrograms of acid. And we talked about previously how that's a massive amount of acid.
Yeah, that elephant got real fucked up.
that's right.
If you were to give someone that without them knowing it,
It wasn't the acid. There's no proof
it
that
was
the
not the acid. I stand by that. There's scientific documentation to back it up.
Listen to episode 4.
That he really was.
Yeah.
It was a great one.
Yeah, these people had no idea what was going on. They destroyed several people's lives to the point where like they had no idea what was going on. They fell into severe depressions. There was one case where this guy, they gave him a bunch of acid and then he fell into a depression and they found him jumped out of his 10-story window and died.
You got to crack a couple eggs to make an omelet. I know it sounds bad, but that's
super
the way
You gotta fry a
that's
couple
the way that they're
brains.
thinking about it, though. Like I'm not thinking,
Sure, yeah,
but that's what
sure.
they're thinking. They're like, we're gonna have to do this just to get to the.
Well, I think the
result.
big thought of doing any of this was always like you're doing right by mankind, right? Like,
I mean,
like,
they were
if
trying
you're
to
sacrificing
Yeah.
this to save more people.
They were trying
right?
to incapacitate people without killing them.
Yeah,
Um,
inhumane way to do
Yeah.
it, though, right?
totally. They were also testing truth serums. By the way, that man who apparently jumped 10 stories to his death, they later did an autopsy and found he had blunt force trauma to the back of the head before he jumped.
So he got hit and then jumped.
Maybe, yeah. They don't know.
Yeah, there's no real proof because blunt force trauma could have come from anything, right? Like he could have like whacked his head before on the way down.
Exactly.
There's lots of things that could have caused something like that. So that just raises a question.
But they covered it up. His family didn't know that this man was given LSD for 20 years.
It wasn't until the documents came out?
Yeah, it wasn't until a long time later that their family found out.
Imagine putting yourself that well, let's just say your dad. Your dad died when you were young and you're living under this illusion this whole time that he killed himself for whatever reason. And all of a sudden, like just 20 years out of the blue, you get this information like, oh, it wasn't. Like, how distrustful would you be about your
not only that,
do you think that truths like that, like, do you think secrets are possible? Like, do you think like a mass, like if we're talking about like Area 51, if we're talking about the moon landing, if we're talking about any conspiracy, do you think it's like if there was a truth behind it, or if there was, since we're talking about conspiracies, do you think it's possible to have a group of people keep a secret? And even if they did keep a secret for that long, if they came out, like if Neil came out tomorrow and he said, you know what, it was fake, like what do you think
the implications on us would be?
I think people can keep secrets, not indefinitely though.
So you think eventually every secret will come out?
Yeah,
I think so, and it's just the way it works. Like eventually, when they get older, they don't have as much fucking strings tying them down anymore. They don't feel that same.
But then, like, there's been cases where old people like that, when they're like on their dying, like that worked at Area 51. I watched a documentary on a guy who used to work there for a long time, and then he came out and said, like, yeah, there was alien ships and there was all these weird things, and he came out and confessed, and he was like dying. He was like on his fucking deathbed.
And he has nothing to lie about.
But now he has he has nothing to lie about at this point. But now he just sounds like a crazy old man.
It's
You know what I
happened.
mean? It's not because it's not that okay, he's dying and now he's getting the truth out. It's he's crazy.
But he's got dementia.
He's old. He's got dementia. Yeah, exactly.
The more people who know the secret exponentially increases the chance that it's going to get out. Is what I think.
Here's the way that I've always kind of looked at life. With every lie, like, because I've had people around me lie. It's just how it works. Yeah, everybody lies at some point, but every lie has some basis of truth within that lie. There has to be something. It doesn't need to be big, but there's got to be something. So, what is that basis of truth? Is it 80%? Is it 10%? Is it 5%? Right. Is it 50%? Yeah. And that's the question that we never have. So I do believe that every truth would eventually come out. Now, the implications on today's society, like
would you believe the truth though after it's come out after like what 30 years, we'll say?
With the proper documentation, for instance, the
evidence.
Okay, these documentations come out. How has that affected our society? It's almost like people just kind of swept it under the rug.
It was like nothing. No one really even heard about it.
Yeah, a lot of people today still don't know.
It happens quite a bit. They almost strategically wait to the point that like, there's big things happening.
Oh yes, I'm the first one. I'm the whistleblower.
You were the person. Yeah, it was you. It was extra, man.
So now this was Operation Darkwood. Now we're getting into more of MK Ultra. One of my favorite parts in that movie is they give this soldier PCP, and then they tell him to run an obstacle course. This guy like barely runs the obstacle course, and then they interview him, and he's like breathing heavy, like panting, and they're asking him, they're like, so how'd you do? Are you tired? And he's like, oh, no, sir, I'm not tired. I feel like I could run 100 miles. And then they start like asking him questions about like what he was supposed to do, and he just gets like lost in thought, and then just starts looking at his buttons on his shirt, and he's like, oh, I lost some buttons, and just like wanders off. It's like my favorite interview ever.
All I think of this whole thing is like Pineapple Express when they like isolate him.
Yeah, that's like, probably where it came from.
Like this is how that it was like showing how they made weed illegal, which wasn't the way how it became legal, but it's funny. But that's what I'm thinking of right now. Is like they're interrogating a guy, they put a guy in there, they stick him in a room with some drugs, they examine what happens to him, they decide whether or not the drug is valid, and make their synopsis from there.
There was a case where they dosed a guy with LSD for 77 days straight.
God damn it.
You would question where you are in life. Like, are you dead? Are you alive? Are you...
You question where you are. You question that from one hit of acid. Yeah. You question...
What happens after 7 days?
Who fucking knows?
Do you come back to yourself?
Probably not.
There's no way you'd ever come out being the same person. Like,
not 77 days straight.
What the fuck? Where do you differentiate when this started, when this ended, and what you were before it started?
I don't know. I think that guy just, like, turned into a god. And just, like, spread out. I don't know, man.
Weird.
You never know.
Strange.
So they also, in MK Ultra, they also did a lot of hypnosis and sensory deprivation. They also did, like, torture, physical and psychological, and sexual abuse. They were trying to break down people, and they did many times. There were also at one point during MK Ultra, they were testing on Canadians. There was this was done at a lot of like colleges and hospitals, universities.
Around what years are we looking at this?
This was around. It was officially sanctioned in 1953. The reduced scope in 64, and then
Sanctioned.
it halted in.
Sanctioned.
It stopped in 73.
That's crazy. Okay, so we're talking like the 40s to the early 70s.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So there was a university or a hospital in Montreal. I believe it was Montreal, where they had a professor there, and he was conducting some of these experiments. So they were dosing Canadians as well.
I'm sorry to all the Montrealites, but holy fuck, everything happens in Montreal when it comes to these fucked up things. I'm just saying.
Yeah, usually.
Lots of weird shit happens out there. Like,
Yeah.
God. Okay. That's crazy though. Like the fact that they're like going, they're like almost importing the victims essentially. Like, all right, it's time to get some more in here. But like to come through like a university or a school and do that, like these people are just going to get an education. They're walking out, well, broken.
Yeah, they were dosing random people. There was during these experiments, you would just like have coffee with this guy, and he would just like drop LSD in there without you knowing it. They did a lot of fucked up shit.
Oh, imagine like
I
just
can't
not
believe
knowing
it
that
blows
you're
my
gonna...
mind that this is like government funded
Oh yeah, this was
thing, right? Like that's just
this
so
was commissioned
weird
by
to
the
think.
government.
Isn't
By
that crazy to think?
No, that's fucking insane to think. The fact that the people that we trust, if you really think about it, it's not just government commission. It's coming through the taxes, right? So you paid for yourself to get fucked up.
Pretty much.
And ultimately,
you gave that guy his job so he could fuck you.
some of the other things they were working on were there was a drug called scopolamine, and
I've never heard that one before.
this is one of those truth drugs. This is actually somewhat
Is
popular.
that a real thing though? Sorry, truth serum. Like, is this truth drug? Like,
This-
has there been like is that a thing?
I've heard
Have
that
they
it is.
figured out like that
It's
a recipe that?
sort of, kind of.
It's,
You-
you speak what's on your mind, right? Like if somebody asks you something, you just blurt it out.
Yeah, they have well, there's a couple things to say about scopolamine. They have ruled that anything you say like under the influence of scopolamine is not credible in court.
Well, because you're on drugs, right?
I
Yeah.
have to say, I've watched Harry Potter, and they do the truth serum in there, and they held that shit up in court like crazy.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there are reports now. This is you might have heard of it in like South America. People are just like blowing it on people, apparently, like the dust on people, and then getting them to empty their bank account, and they will have no memory of it.
So it's not necessarily from what I'm
So this
getting.
has happened? Like this has worked? Like,
Yep.
Oh, okay.
I don't think this
So,
is a
okay.
true serum, more of as an agreeable serum, something that'll make you just kind of like
You lose
submit.
inhibitions.
Well, it depends what you're doing it for. If you're doing it for good reason or for bad reason, which a lot of the time, I mean, it would be. I can't really think of on the spot any good reasons to do this to someone.
Well,
Well, it almost seems suggestive, you know, like when you
Yeah.
say, "Oh, you're this," you're gonna just believe it because
Because
you're
yeah,
told.
that, see,
Well, it's
that's different
almost like
to me than a true
hypnosis.
serum, like you said, right? Because a true serum to me would be like, did you do this? And then there would be a yes or no answer. Like, did you murder this person? Yes or no, and then they would be able to say yes or no. Or could you say, or are you suggesting what they should know? Which
That's
is
what
what
I'm
a bank
asking,
account
right?
is, right?
Well,
Like, if
that's
I'm- yeah.
that's why it's inadmissible in court
Mm.
because
Yeah,
they
like,
think
there's-
it could all just be suggestion.
Shit, you
Right.
can get
Someone
confessions
telling
out of-
you that this is what happened, and now you're convinced that
Yeah.
it did.
You
I
can
mean-
get confessions out of people like in jails that didn't do anything just because they just needed to stop whatever's happening. They just needed to stop, so they confess on it. It happens all the time.
Mhm.
False confessions constantly happen because of it. We've locked up a lot of innocent people based off of just that, and that's not with a serum. That's just being suggestive. And
Yeah.
like, and basically every time you say no, they're like, you're lying. Eventually, you fucking start believing it.
Mhm.
And
Oh
you
yeah,
just go
it's
with it.
happened many times. There's wonderful documentaries on it.
What's that movie called with what's his name? The narrator. What's that guy's name? He always narrates.
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan
Oh,
Freeman.
yeah, it's got Mikey.
What's that movie called
It's gotta
where
be
he's
the
like
Morgan
locked up?
Shawshank?
Oh
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, Stephen King.
Is that Stephen King?
Shawshank is Stephen King. But yeah, that's the same sort of deal, right?
Mhm.
And like that's what I'm hearing the serum as. It's almost like a suggestive thing. Like, where's the truth? And I can get why that's not going to be admissible in court because of that. Because it's so hard to differentiate what was actually truth and what did we kind of like suggest to them to say this is the truth.
Yeah.
And if this chemical is making that happen, that can't be used in court. Like, there's just no way it could be. Not when there's other people involved other than the government. You know.
Right.
This wasn't the only truth drug. They also used LSD as like a truth serum, and then there's another one called sodium pentothal, which was kind of the same sort of thing, but this was like an IV injection that would apparently make people tell the truth. But eventually they concluded that the best truth serum was a combination of alcohol and caffeine.
Really?
That makes sense. Yeah.
It does make sense.
Yeah, I've been
fire your true self, right, when you're hammered.
Oh, absolutely.
Say, right?
Yeah, once you get super drunk, I'm a huggy motherfucker, man. I hug everybody when I'm fucking hammered.
Yeah.
I love every motherfucker.
You're pretty honest though. It's true, right? Because you're not. The consequences are out the window, right? You just don't. You don't think about the consequences.
I think it was Nick Swartzen that said, you know, like when I'm not drunk and somebody hits my car and they came out, I'd be like, "Who the fuck hit my car?" If I'm drunk, I'm like, "Fuck my car."
Yeah, just like just the car.
Yes, you lose inhibitions. So, do you know the name Sirhan Sirhan?
No, never heard that name before.
He is the guy who assassinated Robert F. Kennedy in 1968.
Hold on, what?
That's not the name I heard before.
Was
it Booth? No, Booth was Lincoln.
That was John Lincoln. Yeah.
Booth.
That was
John
Lincoln.
Wilkes Booth was
John
Lincoln,
Wilkes Booth.
And then the other person was. Fuck, why can't I remember his name? He got assassinated right afterwards. It was on TV. He got shot.
Well, he was the original accused.
Yeah, the original.
They weren't even sure, and then he died. Right?
Yeah, because somebody shot him in the stomach.
Well, this is Robert F. Kennedy. This is not the president.
Not John F.
Oh, I was thinking of John
Jesus
too.
Christ.
Yeah.
Sorry,
that confused me.
I forgot his brother. Yeah,
I heard Kennedy and
that confused me for a second there too. It was like, oh shit,
That's
what
not
did
the right fucking name.
What did I just say? What kind of bullshit am I spewing?
Everything is true.
Well, they believe he fired his weapon because he was under MK Ultra mind control techniques, or at least that's what his lawyer said. See, this is where in today's society, people believe everyone is controlled by the government. When you go on YouTube and you look up MK Ultra, which I did, and it's retarded, you will see video after video saying Beyonce is under the influence of MK Ultra. Bruce Willis.
What do they need them for? That's my question.
Listen.
Well, they say they're trying to influence the American people.
Listen,
with her booty.
There is influence, whether we think it or not, through social media.
But that doesn't.
There is. Like,
but are these programmed? Are these people programmed to do
program?
this? Like their evidence is. For the Bruce Willis one.
Wait, is this the conspiracy?
This is
this is where it gets batshit crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, look at I've heard this about Kanye is what I've heard. Kanye West being on this.
And Illuminati and all that bullshit.
Yeah, the Illuminati is the one that you always hear about, but yeah. Okay.
Bruce Willis, there's you can look this up. There's a video, top 10 MK Ultra proofs, I believe it's called. There's an interview with Bruce Willis, and he stops talking and then says something that really is out of context, and they're like, "Look. See? MK Ultra. Proof. He's being controlled." And there's hundreds of these videos.
That's ridiculous to think.
And this is why people discredit conspiracy theories. We have actual evidence that fucked up shit happened, was paid for by the government, and then people just whoa, Bruce Willis.
Basically, it's hard to see the pin of truth in the sea of bullshit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. But is that an MK Ultra thing? Do we have people fucking doing that? Putting out all this bullshit to mask the actual truth in there? You know what I mean? Where does the conspiracy stop?
People believe well, this is another conspiracy, but people believe that the CIA was responsible for the term conspiracy theorist to discredit people.
It could have been at some point. Yeah, for sure it had to have been at some point, right? Something funky happened, it's nah, you're a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
This guy's crazy. I mean, that would happen all the time. That for sure happened all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It still does happen.
They believe the CIA invented that, though. The term conspiracy theory.
I wouldn't put it past that. It's got to come.
We've
from
just seen a lot of evidence.
Listen, you're fucking with a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. Of the evidence of CIA.
And you lied about it for how long before it got leaked?
At least 20 years.
So 20 years you're doing this to people.
And then the head of the CIA destroyed most of the documents.
And all that was okay.
The thing that's fucked up.
And this program still exists, and the CIA is still around. and there was like what minimal penalty down to it.
Next to nothing.
Next to nothing.
The thing
because
is,
they're at the top of the chain.
Well, I was going to say they're the people that do the penalties.
the thing
So,
is,
like, where does the penalty lie on them? Like, there's always a
none.
top, right?
There is none. Yeah.
a little part I didn't get into is this has had massive consequences for the world, good and bad. People speculate that the CIA is responsible for introducing the hippies to CIA. Not directly. Introducing the hippies to LSD.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Not directly.
I'm trying to get, like, what do they need the hippies for? They fucking they really hate the hippies. There's one thing that I know.
Well,
CIA hates hippies.
They were doing... It's on their webpage.
There's CIAHatesHippies.com. It exists.
The people believe this because during MK Ultra and all these things, there were like universities where they would just like hand out acid to students to be a part of tests, and they believe this is what might be responsible for the hippie counterculture and the anti-war movement around Vietnam. Now, this is where it gets a little weird again. There have been lots of people who were part of these MK Ultra acid tests who have turned out to be weird people, aka the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about him.
There is evidence. I have seen some evidence that he was part of the LSD trials.
Oh.
And now, if you don't know the story of Ted Kaczynski, he was a professor at Berkeley.
I like how he got caught. I'm just saying that as a side note. What a fucking guy. Go ahead, continue.
He was a professor at Berkeley, and he became very distrust of technology, and he didn't like technology.
He was a scientist.
Yeah, he was a teacher, but yeah, he was pretty much a scientist.
He was a scientist. He's like, fuck technology. Like,
man,
what? That is very fucking whatever.
Well, the evidence is that the CIA gave him all this acid, and it turned him against technology.
Okay, all right.
So he goes and builds a cabin in the woods, lives out there, and then he starts sending bombs through the mail and taking people out, like blowing off people's fingers and stuff like this.
Small stupid fact. Do you know why he's called the Unabomber? It's not because of his eyebrow.
I think so.
It's actually because he started doing United Airlines bombs.
Oh, okay.
So United Airlines bomber. That's how it started. Sorry, small fact. Go ahead.
Yeah, he started sending bombs to people, and he was eventually caught because he had a manifesto, which I've actually read. It's kind of crazy. But it's just all this gibberish about, like, oh, technology is going to be the end of us. And his brother saw the New York Times release the manifesto so he wouldn't bomb this other place. His brother saw the manifesto, recognized that it was his brother's writing style, and then they found him in the cabin.
Did they not trace him back to his university, too, from something else?
I think so.
It was through a photocopying that he was doing. Same thing as, I can't remember which serial killer it was, BTK, I think it was, who photocopied from his church. He rifled off an email from his church, and he actually asked the cops, he's like, hey, can you trace emails? And the cops are like, no. He was old at this point, he didn't understand that shit, so he fucking sent it off and got caught. It's fucked up, but okay, first off, one thing, manifesto. Is there one manifesto that doesn't seem a little crazy? Like,
no.
Yeah, all of them should have some sort of crazy edge to it.
The Communist Manifesto is probably the worst.
Yeah, so they're tying them to the MK Ultra testings, is what you're trying to say, right?
The acid testings.
I think that kind of makes a little bit of sense.
There's other people like Ken Kesey, a bunch of people who were huge revolutionaries for the acid movement.
So what happened, or where's the proof that he was part of the acid testing?
I don't know off the top of my head. I saw this in a documentary, I believe.
Okay.
So take it with a grain of salt, but I've heard it from a couple places.
So several sources saying it. No. I mean, like, even regardless of truth or not, it's still, there is repercussions based on what MK Ultra has done in the past. So, like, I mean, not saying that this happened through him or anything, or even the direct meaning, like, yeah, he did this, like, but I don't think, like, MK Ultra is like, go bomb that building, like, suggestively doing that. I think that's something that was just a byproduct of whatever testing was said. Yeah, which kind of makes a little bit more sense.
So I think that's about all I have to say on MK Ultra. It's a wonderful topic.
Program.
What do you guys think? Do you think that this program was successful? and they...
That's a way better question than I expected you to give me. I thought you were going to be like, do you think it's real? Like, fuck yeah, I think it's real. Of course I do.
Well, it's definitely real, but how successful? Do you think they are controlling people's minds?
You're first, Dwight.
You know what? Like, I don't know about controlling people's minds, because then you're kind of stemming into like chemtrails and like they're gassing everyone on mass population, and what I can say is like it gives me distrust in the government more than anything, knowing this, right? Like knowing that these guys did experiments on people involuntarily and got away with it for 20 years, breaking all the civil laws that we know of, and got away with it, and it was our government-funded program. I think that's disgusting to know. I think it's not a good thing whatsoever. So like, I mean, all in all, I would not say it was like, I wouldn't categorize it as a success because of the amount of casualties you had associated with it. So, I mean, if there was like no one harmed by this and everyone was volunteering to do this and everyone was made aware of this project that was going on, and there was a clear result that they wanted to get at and how they were going to use this result, I think it would be a completely different story. But because I don't know why this testing was done, I don't know why you'd give someone 10 times more of anything than they, you know what I mean? Like
just to see what happens.
Just to see what happens. Like, I think anything you do, you need a result. Like, you need to want to know a result, and especially the people that were voluntarily involved with this should have known why they were doing this, right? And they were probably, I mean, you can't just mustard gas someone and expect that they wanted it to be done to them, and that, you know what I mean, they were
expect they'll be fine with it.
So, like, I think all in all, I mean, if you're talking about, I think you said something with 8,000 casualties total.
Well, not casualties, but there were 7,000. Yeah.
So I mean, think that's a failure at its.
But they invented Kevlar.
They would have found Kevlar.
Sure would have happened one day.
Fucking Kevlar. Yes. No.
Right, this is how 50 Cent got his truck, okay? This is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, I think it's fucking silly. I think the whole thing was a fail, and I think it's disgusting to know that these programs did exist, that factually we know they existed, and they're not talked about on a mass scale because there's little consequences, because they are the government. They are the upper shelf. They're the elitists. Yeah. So yeah.
Globalists.
Yeah, globalists. So yeah, that's my take on it.
What do you think, Ed?
Do I think this is a success? Okay, I'm going to take the same yet different approach as yourself. Is it successful? I don't like the means in which they got there. I don't like what's happened. I don't like that they did it involuntarily. I don't like that they didn't give the proper information. I don't like that they held it. Were they successful? Look where they're standing now. They have one of the strongest countries in the world. Was it a success? I do believe what they did got them to where they are. Not in I don't agree with it, and I don't think it should have ever happened. But was it a success? I think it worked. What they wanted to get done got done. So in that word of success, they were successful.
Yeah.
Do I think that does it justify the means? Abso-fucking-lutely not. Like there's no part of this that's okay. Not a single fucking part of it. Not one.
Giving someone psychedelic drugs involuntarily is probably worse than killing them.
Because they don't know what the fuck's going on. Like, I've heard of like teachers
that taking charge of their mind, which is like, how much worse can it get? Like, you could tear someone's finger off.
Especially if they have no idea what's happening. They think they've just gone crazy for some reason.
They think they're dying.
Yeah.
I've heard of teachers saying that the kids slip shit in their coffee and shit, and they feel like they're dying. Like they honestly think that they're gonna die.
No idea what's going on.
That would be a terrible fucking feeling to go through. Absolutely. And like that's the ends don't justify the means. But was it successful? With the biggest amount of like,
I think us saying it's successful though at the same time is us saying that it's okay that these programs continue going because we have called it successful now.
I don't agree with that.
I would never want another one of these programs going again.
Okay.
Yeah.
The fact that it was successful doesn't mean it should happen again. Like,
so you don't think like if we can make another jump in technology?
Hiroshima was successful in stopping the war.
No, the war was stopped before that, you son of a bitch.
But I get where you're
coming from. They want to show their big dick, man. That's it.
And it worked.
Yeah, righteousness doesn't determine the success. Like, whether it's right or it's wrong isn't going to determine be the deterrent of it being successful or not. Like, if it comes, if they have the goal, they hit the goal that they wanted to make, that is a definition of success.
Well said. We talked about it.
Yeah.
You're right.
So that gets us right there, right? This is put us right back on base from where we were before. So I don't agree with what's happened. I don't think they should ever do something like that again. But was it successful? Unfortunately, yes.
I've learned something today.
Yeah, that's the point.
My brain is bubbling right now. I like this.
Yeah.
Now, see, I will agree with both of you. You both made very good points, and I would say mine is similar, but different, more similar to Ed's. I think it was successful in the way. Again, everything was wrong. Means of doing it were wrong. It was successful in the way that it created the hippie counterculture, where it got millions of people thinking about, hey, this government's kind of fucking with us, doing some weird shit.
That's true. Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't fight its wars.
That's true.
I think that is directly contributed to the CIA and MK Ultra, and I think that is a tremendous positive.
That's an awesome way of putting it. Like, a man isn't determined by his failures. Or a man isn't determined by his mistakes. It's about how he comes back from those mistakes, right? That's what really matters at the end of the thing. And if you can take anything out of this gigantic fuck mess that happened, the positive, that is a positive, right? That is taking something that shouldn't have been there. It should, like, this was not on the government's mind of this is going to happen. This is going to be ultimate. So there's a failure for the government on that sense.
Thanks for starting our movement, motherfuckers.
Yeah, they did the exact opposite of what they wanted.
But there's your positive out of all this sea of negativity.
Fair enough.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
I think that's a great way to wrap things up.
Absolutely. Well, if you guys don't know, this has been Why the Fuck Not, where all three of us gather around one table, tell all of our favorite little stories, and basically discuss them with all of you, the listeners. You can find us on Podbean, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube. Of course, you can find us on Facebook, and if you ever want to drop us a line, give us some ideas for some topics, if you want to just open up a discussion, by all means, we can get that set up on our Facebook page, and we're happy to do it.
Keep it interactive.
Absolutely. So with that on mind, my name's Ed.
I'm Dwight.
And I'm Aaron.
Don't throw spoons at hookers.